Welcome to Building Health, one layer at a time, with host Kathy Moore, Health Officer and Public Health Director of Muskegon County. Building Health, one layer at a time is presented by Public Health of Muskegon County.
Welcome to Building Health, one layer at a time. I'm Jamie Hecker, Community Engagement Coordinator for Public Health Muskegon County, and we're so happy to have you here today. And I have a guest here from MSU Extension. Lainey, can I have you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Lainey Burris. I work with Michigan State University Extension in Muskegon County as a community nutrition instructor.
Well, great. So obviously we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition today, and if you didn't know, March is National Nutrition Month, and really that means focusing on all kinds of nutrition, but making sure people know about healthful eating and helping to create lifelong habits that help them have a varied and healthful diet. And so Lainey, I wondered if you could just talk to us a little bit about some of the programs around nutrition and food that MSU Extension offers.
Yeah, so Michigan State University Extension is linked to Michigan State University, and we appear in all the counties in Michigan, and we have different branches, and one of those is food and health, which nutrition falls under. We also have business and 4-H, agriculture, and a lot of other ones, but nutrition has been my focus. And so in the Muskegon County office for MSU Extension, we have 2 employees that are both community nutrition instructors, and our jobs vary a little bit, but there's also a lot of overlap. So primarily what we're doing is going to different community organizations, so it could be schools, the rescue mission, churches, a lot of different community organizations and buildings and spaces, and we deliver direct education about nutrition. So that can be things such as the USDA My Plate, or it can be around eating whole foods. And I usually pair it with a food preparation session, so cooking classes, or if it's a short session, food tasting as well. So having things pre-prepared to taste there that are maybe something you wouldn't have tried already or that you could easily prepare at home. We also always try to squeeze in a nice physical activity part of those classes because those things go hand in hand, eating well and also exercising. Where my job varies a little bit from my coworker Julie is I also have work that I do which is labeled PSE, which stands for Policy, Systems, and Environmental Changes, which sounds maybe fancier than it is, but it's working with those same organizations but trying to create policies, procedures in place that help improve healthy habits within their facility or that can improve food access in our community, which is a barrier to healthy eating.
So I actually didn't know that about you, but I've worked in some of that work myself, and so would that be the kind of thing like looking at if they have vending machines and what's in them, or what kind of meals are served when they're doing group meals or potlucks, or just the organization themselves taking a look at their whole practices and how to be a healthier organization for their people?
Yep, exactly. So vending machines, it can also be gas stations, and like, would you carry more bananas, more fresh produce, things that are really accessible to people? Maybe there's maybe you live in a food desert, so there's a lot of gas stations, but not a big grocery store that's affordable nearby. And then it can also be school kind of different policies that are maybe even small, like exercising at this time of day and taking in some of those. Or we just had a really cool grant in Michigan called the 10 cents a meal grant that went to a lot of different schools to improve whole food consumption. And so it can also be, well, now you have all this money, how do we best use it? And how do we get the children not only to be offered healthy foods and whole foods in the school, but also eat them? Because sometimes you put those things on a kid's plate and then you go look at the cafeteria trash bucket and it's all the vegetables and all the fruits. So there's a lot of things that go into that. But the 10 cents a meal grant program is somewhere that I've been doing a lot of PSE work recently with schools, and how do we just best use that? And so it might be tastings to get the kids to taste some zucchini so that they'll eat them the next time that it's on the plate.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges we all face, whether it's grown-ups or kids or teachers or anybody that's working with food or with new people. And so actually that just makes me think, if we're trying to change or tweak or move our diet a little more towards including greater nutrition, kind of where do you start? Or it seems so overwhelming. We've talked about that a little bit on some of our other shows here, but
Yeah.
You know, I like what I like. My child likes what he likes, and how do I incorporate a few more things without there being anarchy?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. And I think, I always try to say when I teach it, it's all about moderation too. So it's not me saying, hey, you can't ever have, unhealthy chips or cookies, but that some things are foods in moderation. And so I think tastings and just starting to introduce things and try out different ways to prepare things, sometimes you find that maybe you didn't like zucchinis in this soup, but maybe you like zucchini noodles, which can be really easy to make. And so things like that. So trying it in different forms. I also think that a huge barrier for healthy eating can be that there's kind of this idea that it might be expensive too. And so there's certain ways to get around that as well. In my house, sometimes certain foods that are whole foods go really fast and they don't spoil because everyone's eating them. And other times, well, maybe the week didn't go how we planned and now my tomatoes are bad. That can be a huge expense that you've just lost and you didn't get to eat. And so I think that little shortcuts of things you like that are in your house that you can have on hand, just having things present is going to be huge. But frozen foods are really healthy. They're flash frozen, so frozen at peak ripeness with all the nutrient value. And you can get them on sale in bulk. They can be in your freezer for a really long time, and they can always be prepared up, and they're going to be healthy. So, and then you can look for sales if you know which ones you like, and you don't have to worry about them going bad. And so the same is true with dry goods like brown rice and beans. I think another thing too, when you're thinking about, okay, well, I know my kid will eat this or I like this, maybe there's small changes you can make. So when you're looking at dairy products, you want to look at lower fat options. So if you still like yogurt, eat that yogurt, but maybe can you look for a low fat one? And a lot of times those changes are really small and you don't notice them, and the children in your house aren't going to notice them. Or thinking about maybe your kid likes strawberry yogurt. Instead of getting the ones that have strawberries already in them, can you get frozen strawberries and put it in so it doesn't come with the added sugar and the syrups and things like that? And the same would be true with ground beef. Or you could switch out for ground turkey, but also if you really, really want beef, you could look for lean content. So on the front, it'll usually say percentage lean, and you want more lean, less fat. And then the tricks for looking at bread is going to be you're looking for whole grain, and that's the label that you want on the front, and the whole grain. And then getting in your fiber through whole grains, whole foods. And just trying fun ways to prepare them. Shapes are fun for kids, but also there's some foods you only like prepared certain ways, so you kind of got to try them all if you have the privilege of being able to do that.
Yeah, I really hear you on the frozen foods because I have great intentions for spinach, and I feel like I should just take it right from the store and throw it right in the trash sometimes because when I eat it and I cook with it, I love it, and so often it just doesn't go that way. But the bananas, they never go bad because, we either eat them right away or they're easy to cut up and, put in my yogurt or put in a smoothie. And so I think that's a really good point. And something else I've worked on both as a adult in a family or just as an adult who's trying to work and get through my life a little better is trying to plan a little far in advance, and even if it doesn't work, at least there were 2 days I had dinner planned, and I used the vegetables instead of 0 days. It's like incremental changes is what I'm working at as an adult.
Yes, starting small and making sure that your goals are like small and achievable and measurable. So even being really specific so you can hold yourself accountable. Like, you know what, I'm going to eat one more leafy green or green vegetable this week. And then you do it. Or I'm going to eat it on Thursday for dinner. I'm going to have one more green vegetable there, like a green bean. Like small things that you can just incrementally add to so it doesn't feel overwhelming, because when things feel overwhelming, we're less likely to follow through and hold ourselves accountable. So start small and still go enjoy the foods that you really enjoy too, even if they're not healthy. Just always thinking about moderation.
And I think you'll like to say the funniest story. A friend gave me a lovely recipe for it. Was a white bean soup, all out of your cupboard, except for some onions and carrots and a few spices. So really cheap to make and easy. And I put it out, and it was so good. And my husband loved it, and I loved it. And my kid said, "I don't like bean soup," and so I just put out the beans and took out a few of the spices so he could just see beans, and he's like, "Oh, I like beans. This is really good." And I had the same wonderful flavor. And he ate all the beans, and there's all the, there's protein and fiber. And I was like, well, of course you like beans. I mean, goodness knows you don't like broth, of course. So.
Yeah, right. And as an adult, we have those things too. Like, oh, I like personally, I don't really like cooked kale. Oops, but I like raw kale, which I think is reversed for a lot of people, but I love raw kale salads, but I won't eat it cooked. Or I didn't know how to prepare collard greens for a long time. They're delicious. I wasn't preparing them in a way that I thought they were ever good before until like maybe 2 summers ago, and I got a really good recipe, someone vouched for it, I tried it, and I was like, oh, collard greens are awesome. So it's all those little things you got to try out.
Okay. And so is that one of the things you guys teach, also different, like
yeah, so we
way
provide
to adapt recipes?
Yep.
And
Yeah, so we provide lots of tastings, which really are a great way to try out things before you have to make the commitment of buying it yourself. So if you come to one of my cooking classes, my nutrition classes, we're either going to cook or taste a hopefully new food, or at least a same food prepared in a new way. Maybe it's healthier, maybe it's just different from how you've had it. So I love for all ages to be trying things in a different way. So chickpeas, I find that chickpeas are something that stays well. They're really healthy. They have a lot of protein, a lot of fiber. And also a lot of our food pantries have a surplus of chickpeas that they can't hand out because people aren't really using them. They don't know what to do with dried chickpeas, which take a little bit to soak, but are really easy to prepare. But you can make hummus. And if you don't like hummus, you can also make a really good roasted chickpea. I also like to put it in things like with squash. So maybe you thought you didn't like chickpeas, but trying it a different way. And so that's something we do in the class. We prepare them in different ways, but also we taste them in a lot of different ways. So then maybe the people in the class, and myself included, are more likely to buy those healthy things when they see them at the store the next time, where before it was like, what do I do with that? I felt that way about butternut squash for a long time. That is such a good vegetable for Michigan, because another way to eat healthy and shop healthy on a budget is buying things that are in season. And Michigan has winter, which can take away some of our growing season. But butternut squash, pumpkins, acorn squash, all those winter squash are harvested in this fall, and they last throughout the winter. They last on your countertop. They store really easily and for a long time, and which makes them affordable as well. So they didn't have to go very far to get to us. They're from here, and we can leave them out, so we can buy them in bulk and we can have them, and they're quite healthy. So buying in season is easier in the summer, but not impossible in the winter either.
Excellent. So you're naming some of my favorite fruits and vegetables.
Awesome.
And again, things I actually was lucky enough to be able to be exposed to as a child, but didn't learn how to cook until I was a little older. And then it is nice. Look at what I made. And you can't help but do the Midwest thing and say, and you know what? It only cost like $1 a serving. So,
right, doing the mental math,
yeah.
like this is how, yeah.
And so because you bring up, cost, and we're heading into spring, it's starting to be warmer weather. I don't think we're totally done with the cold yet, but I would love to hear your thoughts on if I want to grow some of my own food. I know children really love this, and it's a great way to introduce them to where food comes from. A French fry isn't just born, and the fritters don't just come out of nothing. The food in there is something.
Yeah.
And so just some ideas for how a normal person, who is me, who likes food, can start to grow some of it, even if it's just a few little things.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, because I think it can seem like that's really big, but I think it's achievable for everyone to have, a small garden, or for most people. And I think there's a few ways to get started. I would say, again, with those achievable goals. So starting small. So if you've not gardened before, you don't have to have a big garden. You don't have to try a bunch of things. What things do you really want to grow that you love to eat? Maybe this summer it's tomatoes. And maybe you just figure out how to grow tomatoes in a container, so in a pot in your front yard. And those seeds could come from a seed of a tomato that you've eaten as well, especially if you're buying from the farmer's market, which can be a great way to save money in the summer as well, especially with the awesome Double Up Food Bucks program we have as well, that allows you to use those food stamps at farmer's markets for fresh food. So that can be a great way. And then also I would say getting involved in a community garden, which I think in Muskegon County we have quite a few, even just around this area, that would be a great resource for you to go somewhere and have hands-on experience. And maybe it's not your thing, or maybe it really is, or maybe it helps you feel more comfortable to have your own plant at home. And also they are great resources for acquiring seeds as well, and like a free starter kit of seeds. So those tomato seeds, if you want to grow tomatoes this summer, and you're just going to get one pot and you're going to try to grow a couple of plants, that would be a great link to resources where there are a lot of them in Muskegon County to help people get seeds at low cost to start those things, and then pair it with that hands-on education of community gardens. So I think getting involved in community gardens that exist already in your community, And then starting with really small, achievable goals so you don't get overwhelmed by like having 8 different plants or a big garden plot. I think I did that my first year gardening. I was like, I'm going to do all the things. And I was like, this is a lot of work when it doesn't have to be. So, and then I would choose maybe some of your favorite foods or foods that are really fun to grow or that your kids like or your family likes, because either you're going to be excited that you had so many cherry tomatoes, those are one of my favorites, and that's going to be really satisfying, or sometimes it's really cool to watch things like carrots grow. When I feel like we see a lot of baby carrots in the store as well, and that's, you know, a cut up carrot. It's not even what it looks like in the ground, but to know that it's coming from below and the anticipation of like checking on the very top to see, is it big enough to pull yet, is really cool. So think about, you know, what you're going to eat and what you would enjoy growing, and start very small, those achievable goals.
And maybe if you're not ready for that, you could just have basil in one pot and oregano in another.
Yeah, you can also do those herbs. Yeah, a lot of people have little pots and herbs on there,
They don't have
so they
to
can
even
just
be outside.
cut them up as they go. I also offer gardening paired with nutrition programs in the summer. So that's something, we have curriculums that we use to guide us, but then it's specific to the gardens that we have. So in the summers, as soon as it's warm enough, I love to pair the hands-on education of nutrition and eating healthy foods with how do we grow those. So if you check out MSU in the summer and spring and fall and you're asking for nutrition classes, you could very easily find one that's going to also have a gardening component if that's something you're interested in, which would be a great way to get your hands dirty and start the process.
Awesome. I think we're actually, our building health team, we're hoping to visit some of our community gardens in the summer once
Awesome.
they get going and they have some plants up and going. So that's something we're really hoping to bring to our community, as well as the farmers market once we have a little more produce and they move back outside.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah, because our they're, like you said, the double up food bucks. People can use their bridge card at the markets and get extra dollars for that, and also. Our WIC clients can get Project Fresh and get additional vouchers there, so there's a lot of ways to get access to those healthy foods. So
yeah, definitely.
So I also have one other question. We talked about how you get started with gardening and done a little bit of get started, but so I've acquired some healthy foods, and I've, you know, any ideas for kind of how to get started on healthy meal planning? I know for those of us who work or those of us who have children or even just a day-to-day thing, sometimes it's a little overwhelming to think about like a meal plan or what are we going to do for dinner. I think what am I going to do for dinner is the worst question for any adult to think about. And so having some thoughts on that and how to do it healthfully seems like the question we'd all love to answer.
Yeah. So I think there's a few things to go to, and I think the first one would be that remembering that you can also assemble foods, right? So thinking about easy breakfasts and lunches. Breakfast, yogurt parfait is going to be really healthy. You have low-fat yogurt, granola, and then maybe a frozen fruit. And that's something that is kind of quicker. You can assemble it. So there's moments where you can assemble foods and it's a bit quicker. When it comes to that big dinner question and you're like, I want a cooked meal, I want a full meal, and it seems difficult, I would again say start small. If you're not already cooking every meal, just think, okay, this Monday, I'm going to cook a meal this Monday, and I'm going to do it next week, and then maybe you can add another day to that. So starting again with achievable so it doesn't get overwhelming. When you're doing that too, if you are in a place where you want to be planning ahead, you can think of meal prepping. So maybe Sundays are a really free day for you and you have family help even. There's certain things you can prepare ahead of time. Can you cook meals and put them into small containers that you can take to work even so that you continue to eat healthy? A lot of those unhealthy decisions happen when we're kind of crammed for time or in a space and we didn't have time to pack lunch and, oh, now my options that are quick that fit into my schedule are going to be fast food or something less healthy. So packing yourself snacks, but also you can plan some of those meals ahead of time. Spaghetti, different pastas, meatloaf, lasagna is one of my go-tos, and you can pack it full of, you could use whole grain pasta would make it healthier, a lean ground beef or a ground turkey as your meat in there, red sauce, whatever veggies. That's a great place to hide veggies
You
too.
can put the spinach that
you can hide
throw away, otherwise can go in your lasagna.
Yes, that's a great place to hide vegetables. You can also meal prep smoothies. So smoothies can be a really good, healthy way to get in some of your fruits and can also be a great place to hide things, hide your kale, your spinach, your leafy greens. Maybe you want to add some protein in there as well. Those can be really easy to freeze and then give to your family or take to work in the morning. It's really important. You don't have to eat a full breakfast, but it is important to try to get a bite of something. Last week in one of my classes, we were making energy balls, which was the oats that are the old-fashioned oats, peanut butter. We did some coconut shreds in there and some chocolate chips to make it kind of delicious, almost like a no-bake cookie. Those are something you can make in mass. It's so quick, pretty affordable, and then you put them in your fridge. And if everyone just had one in the morning, your body's like waking up, it's ready to go. So thinking about how you can pre-plan during the times you do have time. So when do you have time and what meal can I make during that? If you are wanting to make something the same day, there's also wonderful crock pot meals, things that you can put in the crock pot or something like that and leave for a long amount of time. Different things to prepare that can kind of be left to cook. So maybe they don't take that much preparation, they just take waiting time, and that's something you have. You can put them in the oven or in a crock pot and you can wait for a couple hours and get the other things you need to done. So it's not taking up that much time of your day.
I guess when in doubt, there's always breakfast for dinner. You know, some eggs, some whole grain toast, and some fruit, and you'll be good to go.
Yep. Yep. Quick things that are good. And when you're ready to take on that bigger recipe, giving yourself, thinking about what's going to fit into my schedule or when's the best time to prepare this, because it can be challenging. So if you can do it ahead of time and eat throughout the week healthy meals, if you can bring them with you, like I love to meal prep, it can be a little bit, seem like a lot, but then I have a fresh or a cooked meal for lunch instead of cheating and going to somewhere that fits in my lunch break.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's challenging, but if we can do a little bit.
Yeah, small, achievable, good starting point.
Excellent. So if, say my church or my child's after school program, my Boy Scouts, whatever, is interested in learning more about nutrition, how do we get you or your colleagues at Michigan State University Extension to come and help us?
Yeah. So in Muskegon County, we have our own office here on Apple. And so you can always walk in, but also if you want to find us online, or even if you're not in Muskegon and you want to see what your closest MSU Extension and classes are, a good website for us would be canr.msu.edu. That's going to take you to a page that has a lot of different programs that we offer at MSU Extension, including 4-H, business. There's a lot of other opportunities. So if you're looking for anything, I would say call MSU Extension, because MSU is so big, the resources are so abundant that there's a lot of things we can offer. But you'll click on food and health and you will get a lot of resources as well as recipes and things. A lot of that is online. So recipes, eating on a budget, a lot of our resources are very accessible online for your own use. And then also it'll connect you to our office and whatever nutrition programs are available.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you a question I didn't ask you before and didn't prep. So, is there a cost for nonprofit or educational program schools to work with MSU on these programs?
I'm really glad you asked that, because I feel like that's a really good question. And no, there's not. So I didn't say about my job, but we're funded through the USDA through SNAP Ed, and so we provide our materials. We come to you, or we have a facility here where you can come to us. So if you don't have a location, that's also fine if you just have a group, right? So we provide the food, the materials, the curriculum, the education at no cost, because we're grant funded, and so we use that grant money to provide our direct education.
Excellent. Like I said, I didn't know that, so I'm glad
you asked that.
And a lot of places there is funding for all kinds of nutrition education programs, and you're just one of the excellent partners we have in the community. We're very lucky in Muskegon County to have a lot of people who really care about food access and healthy food, and so I think that's why it's so important to have programs and partners. So. In case you didn't catch it, that Michigan State University Extension is actually co-located with the Public Health Muskegon County on our campus here at 209 East Apple. So she's actually right across the hall from me, which is why they're such a good resource for us. And again, please tell me your website so that everyone can get it. And I know we will get this embedded with our video as well. Yep,
canr.msu.edu.
Okay, well, do you have any other parting words you want to give us? Or
just that I hope you'll give MSU a call if you're thinking about any of those things about food and health, because we have lots of resources, lots of time, and a lot of people willing to help. So don't don't feel hesitant to reach out.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we hope everyone has an excellent National Nutrition Month. And just remember, this is for information all year round. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.